Ladies and gentlemen,
Totally pre-recorded from Bonner Springs, Kansas.
Kansas City Nights.
Yo!
I'm Brian Rice.
I'm Shannon Guber.
And today's guest is the one and only Dr. Andrew Moore.
Doctor of drums,
That's right.
of percussion.
Perpetual change.
Yeah.
30 plus years.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet.
Hey,
I mean,
thank
we're
you.
closer to 40.
I was about to correct myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
In
So-
a year from now, we got to plan a big.
Oh,
40
that's
year
right.
bash. We'll do something for sure.
Right. Well, 2027 will be the Northwest one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I think you're our first drummer that we've had, right?
Really? All right.
We interviewed a drummer before.
Possibly. I'm trying to
Oh,
think
yeah,
of,
I
and I'm
know.
blanking on everybody, but yeah, you're definitely the first exclusive drummer, I would say. Like
Right.
maybe somebody has played drums that's done. I'm trying to think of, no, we haven't, we did Brad, not Sean Poors. So,
Right. We
yes.
spoke to Brad Gaddy.
All right.
Okay. The unreleased
Maybe.
episode.
Yeah.
You know, when you're some of the names we were talking about earlier, it's like someone like Brad Gaddy. It's weird to think that, okay, I've known him like
Hey.
35 years
Right.
or more.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And Sean
exactly.
and so many of the musicians.
It's
in
amazing.
town.
No,
Yeah.
I always say this. I think I said this in Brad's podcast, and I've said it all other times. Just like the history that you guys have, that continual connection
Yeah.
that you've got. Because I mean, I barely anybody from my high school that I still connected with. You know what I mean? Maybe one or two
we're
people.
pretty lucky that way. Northwest, we've all kind of hung together.
Yeah.
We still stick together. Andrew and I were in a couple of bands growing up.
You
as a
beat
matter
me
of
to
fact.
this because I was going to tell the same thing, but
dang,
keep
I'm
going,
sorry.
keep going.
A couple of bands, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, like
For not just a one-off. This is for a multi-year.
Multi-year
project.
project, right.
okay.
Legit stuff.
Do you want to tell the name or
Well, yeah, I don't know. Was there a name?
well, the Marching Cougar Pride?
Oh,
would
yeah,
be
the Marching Cougar Pride
Yeah.
was one of them, which we got at number ones in our senior year.
Yeah.
It was the only year we got one rankings for that with Tom Moss,
Yeah.
I believe.
And then, but we can't forget Lynn Harrington, who was
Man,
the
right.
awesome band director. that-
Awesome band director. Kansas Hall of Fame
yeah.
for band directors, as a matter of fact.
And the jazz band and the
yeah. Hey,
what
we
else?
had a lit jazz band too.
Yeah.
We were good.
yeah.
We were good. I was bass trombone,
Right on.
Brian Rice.
I'm messing around.
You're messing around. You were in the rhythm section
Yeah.
with you and Boz.
Yeah.
And
And early on, remember Perry Schrag, the guitar
Yeah,
player?
I remember Perry
He
Schrag.
kind of disappeared. We need to track him down.
I think actually he became a politician of some type.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm pretty sure he's a
All
politician
right.
somewhere.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah. Gosh, and there, Alex, somebody else was there after Perry had graduated.
Yeah.
Because I think he was a
Matt Rose played guitar.
Matt Rose.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because he played trumpet, but I think didn't he play guitar?
He,
Some too?
well, I remember, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I don't know. I don't remember much about
Yeah.
those days, to be honest.
Runs together. I do remember, not to bring it down, but we were
Mm-hmm.
in jazz band when the shuttle
Oh,
exploded. That when they made that
okay.
announcement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
86. That was January or
Right.
February.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember H let out an F-bomb when he
Hey.
was like really torn up. I mean, we
Yeah.
all were didn't
Yeah,
know
it
what
was
to
a
think, but
shocker.
I remember he was
Mr. Moling freaked out too.
Yeah.
I believe because he was in the running for that whole deal.
Yeah.
So
I was homesick from school that day.
oh wow.
So that's about all I
COVID.
remember.
What was it? COVID?
Pre-COVID, something.
Okay. All right.
Or that I may have just been playing hooky and pretending to be.
Sure. Right. Now, since we're talking about school, did you go to Trail Ridge? Where'd you go to junior high?
I was a Hawker Hood.
You were a Hawker Hood. Oh,
Yeah.
well, it all comes together now. The pieces
And it
fit.
really was kind of the Hawker Hoods, you know, the smoking lounge in, this is in junior
yeah.
high school out in front of the school. You had the freaks and the jocks, and I wasn't really either one, but it was like,
Right.
there was a,
No, you've always been cool. You've always, like me, you just kind of go with all the different
That's-
groups,
I
whatever.
yeah, that's a good place to be, I think.
Yeah.
And back to the marching band, something that I always tell my kids that there were whenever there were foreign exchange students, they would just dump them in the marching band.
Right.
Whether they played or not. If they didn't play anything, they would be in the percussion section and they'd play the cymbals with the bass drum or whatever.
Yeah.
And I made some good friends with some of those guys and gals that were
Right.
from
No, I remember one German dude that was
Lars.
Was it Lars?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
funny story about him. Sorry, we're going down this
No,
path.
no, perfect. This is perfect.
But
This is perfect.
One day, like before school would even start, like in the summer, they would have, they call it band camp. I mean, we'd march early in the morning out there.
Oh man.
And and so Lars actually kind of played the drums and was playing the quads, and the percussion section was over kind of up against the building practicing, and I look over and I see his quad sitting on the ground, and then I look over and he's just up against the school, just peeing up against the wall, like not around the corner or anything, right out in plain sight. And we cracked up. It was the funniest thing. And he's like, "What's wrong?"
Yeah,
but that was
like what?
Yeah,
so that was all the time in
story.
Germany. Just real quick. I mean, Terry.
Yeah,
was in that the drummer of Mortal Rain.
Yeah,
now passed.
Yeah.
There was somebody else. Mandy's sister, Bree. Was Bree in marching band as well?
She was quite a bit young. I mean, not quite a bit, but she was younger than. I think she was either a freshman or maybe not even in high school. Maybe she was a freshman when we were seniors.
Okay, all right. And she's still drumming. She's still drumming.
Talk to her every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
she's great.
Yeah, that's great. Did you have her on your podcast?
No, but I talked to her about being on it.
Okay,
so it's coming. It's coming.
One of the ones you're trying to schedule.
Yep, exactly. Before we move on, real quick, do you remember when I got kicked out of band, the band camp deal?
No.
Oh, you don't remember that? Oh, Lynn Harrington. Oh, man. I got framed, first off. I just want to say that.
All right.
I got framed, but man, he kicked me right on out.
Gosh.
I came back the next day.
Okay, all right.
But I was like, walk of shame on that.
Oh, he would yell through that bullhorn.
Yeah.
And,
he said, Shannon Gabriel, oh, man, what did I do this time? Bad enough to where he's going to kick me out.
And he would call you a jackass if you weren't doing something right.
Yeah.
Like probably wouldn't fly today. But
jackass, jerko.
Like Red from that 70s show, like the father.
Right.
Dumbass. That was dumbass.
Yeah. Other than that, though, he was a saint.
Yeah.
He was a funny guy. Or he is a funny guy.
Yeah.
So
he's still on Facebook. And
okay. No,
I saw him a few years ago. But
Nice. Well, hey, let's, Brian, what are you doing? You taking some pictures here?
I'm posting to
social media. Already. Whoa, yes, we are. Start at, let's just start. I know Brian likes to ask this question, but, let's go all the way back.
All the way back
to the beginning.
All right.
So did you start on drums?
I did start on drums.
Okay. All right.
And
did you have a family member that?
No, I was one of those. I mean, I was like obsessed with drum from the time I was a little kid. If I would see a drum set or a snare drum, I was.
Was there any musicians in your family, or that just something that resonated with you?
Just my older brother plays guitar, and to this day is in his own kind of music scene. The Hearers, if you've heard of them, they're a Kansas City band. They put out records occasionally, and he's got a studio at his house, and he's been
nice.
Is he a dentist?
He's not a dentist, no. But the last album they did was described as let's see, if Pink Floyd was from Kentucky, this is what it would sound like.
Wow. So, okay, wait a minute. Are they on Spotify?
Probably.
I gotta look this up.
Here. I'm
gonna like them. Hears. THE. Okay.
Mark Tweed. Do you remember Mark Tweed?
No.
He was a year behind us. No, wait, he's a couple years ahead of us.
No, I don't.
All right. Yeah, check them out.
I don't see
super
him
cool.
on Spotify.
All right. I'll tell him he needs to get on it.
Right.
Let's see. Okay, so the beginning. So prior to the fourth grade, I got my first snare drum in anticipation for going into band in grade school. When you used to start in the fourth grade, which now it's maybe fifth or older, I don't know. But always obsessed with drums before that. And when I got it, I practiced all the time. Like teacher would give me stuff to learn, and I would.
So fourth grade, that's about 10 years old then, right?
Yeah. And I was like kind of the youngest one in the class. I have an August birthday, so everyone was always a little older than me. Trey DeBose was a year ahead of me. And Trey and I met in,
all right.
Let's see, really, I was in 3rd grade and he was in 4th grade.
And this, what is it, Mill Valley? What?
This was at Blue Jacket Elementary.
Blue Jacket, okay.
And so Trey and I played in the band and we had a choir. So we both we sang in the choir, but the choir teacher would have us play, and Trey's a great drummer too. The two of us would play drums for this choir. And it was kind of a good, for a grade school, we'd sing these pop songs and stuff and go sing at the nursing home or whatever. And I got a picture somewhere of Trey and I standing behind my little red sparkle drum set, so we really go way back.
Hey, more sparkle the better.
Yeah.
So now, did you practice on a pad? I assume you were doing.
I had a pad, yeah.
Whatever.
But I got this drum little kit that had a pad and the snare, and I think actually when we first started in school, it was just the pad, and then when we finally got to play the real snare drum, that was a big deal. So yeah, morphed right into getting a drum set. I think my parents were like, he's playing all the time. I mean, there was no question that I was into it, so got a little used, I call it a Frankenstein drum set, like 3 different brands, they all kind of matched in color, but not a real complete set.
So where do you set up with that doesn't drive your parents crazy?
It was in our unfinished basement, which is like, 120 decibels when you're playing down there.
Right.
And, so that was it. But they were super supportive. Like
that's great.
And then later on, my brother started playing guitar, and we had a soundproof room in our basement, about smaller than this, and we started putting egg cartons on the wall to like absorb the sound. And then before long, all the neighbors in the neighborhood were saving egg cartons for us, and we would hot glue it. We'd get one wall finished, and then we got another wall. And to this day, at my parents' house, there's still egg cartons.
Oh, really?
As far as I know,
same house?
Yeah, same house.
Okay.
And,
great.
Man, we rocked that place. I mean, it was, through the Perpetual Change era, then Mike and I kind of made it into a studio later on, and so it's some history there.
Nice. So your brother kind of was a big proponent for you, just staying in music.
And he was learned to play, and he was kind of like me, played the guitar all the time, and then we kind of moved. When I was in the 6th grade, the first incarnation, which we don't really count, but we were Perpetual Change, and my brother actually thought of the name, so it was my brother.
Hey, there you go. I think we found it
Trivia.
out.
Fun fact,
yeah.
Trivia. And I say he thought of it. That was a Yes song. It is a Yes song. And so they're just like, oh, this is a cool name. No one will know where we got it.
Okay.
I'm
I didn't even know it was a Yes song, man.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with Yes to know that that's the name of a song.
And in recent years, some guy contacted us through our Perpetual Change website and assumed we were a Perpetual Change or a Yes tribute band and wanted to collab on some music thing or whatever. So we had to. We don't play a single Yes song. But
when we had Jim Parker on, he did give us a definition of Perpetual Change. I think.
Did he?
Kind of, sorta. I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't think he probably doesn't know even that.
It sounded good. Whatever he said,
I'm sure he made something.
I think he was just BSing, probably.
Oh, what?
But so
no way.
Then let's see.
Jim.
So my brother and a couple of his friends, when I was still in the 6th grade in grade school, not yet into junior high, we played at the Hocker Grove in the gymnasium. We played like 5 or 6 cover songs and one original. And
so who was in this band at this point?
So it was myself, my brother, his friend Bill Bethke, who's still in town, and there's a guy, Lanny Quigley, who's a bass player, was in. I've got a picture somewhere of all of us, and I look like I was like 11 years old, and these guys were a lot older than me, and but we sounded pretty good. I mean, we played some cool stuff, but that was like, we say we were a band, but we played like 2 gigs or something, for the school, and then kind of fast forward to middle school is when I met Jim and Mike in gym class, Hocker Grove. I think Jim maybe told that story a little bit. I mean, literally we're in gym class and Mike was wearing a Rush shirt and I think I was wearing a Rush shirt and it was just like this instant, we're the same,
Right.
And I think Jim was wearing an Aussie shirt probably, but we kind of hung out. Mike and I, Jim actually wasn't playing the guitar at that point, but Mike and I kind of got in a band and with some of the junior high guys and played another thing in the gym for like a party or whatever.
Right.
And and at the skating rink, Coach Light skating rink. Do you remember Coach Light?
Sure, up off of 87th Street, right?
This was the one. It's now Skate City, but it's in
Shawnee Mission
Merriam.
Parkway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we played there, and we promoted it ourselves, and the guy was cool. He was like, I'll let you guys play, and we.
You seem like clean cut,
upstanding
boys.
Well, it was funny. I can't remember how we worked out the money with him, but it. When it was all said and done, we made $13 each. I think is what we made. It was a lot of work too.
Well, that's in the '80s. That'll get you somewhere.
Yeah, buy a couple pairs of drumsticks.
Early '80s. Yeah, right.
And but it was fun. I mean, at that point, we're doing this. I mean, we loved everything about it, and it was there were some with Mike and I. There were some different incarnations of the band, and when we were still in middle school, then we were playing with some high school guys, and we played the school jam at Northwest before we were actually students there. And then I'll kind of fast forward to the infamous 5/2/85, May 5th, 1985 was the first official Perpetual change as we know it now.
With the classic lineup.
Classic lineup,
right.
yeah.
Right.
And it's been, I mean, that group of guys, I mean, it's like we're brothers, We're all,
heck yeah.
We're all pretty different, really. If you put us all on paper, our, our personalities or our, whatever you want to call it.
Temperaments.
You would not put us all together, I don't think, but.
Y'all
in no
are great
other context.
guys.
In no other context. That's the only context.
It's weird, but yeah, we all know each other inside and out, and everyone's got their own little funny idiosyncrasies, and you love them for it,
Sure.
It's fun, but and so much now when we play, the dialogue when we're setting up and stuff is like, remember that time in, wherever.
Yeah.
Garnett, Kansas, when the
Well, so I think Trey told me that your dad is a dentist, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's evidently why you got into it.
Yeah.
How was it like? I mean, we're probably jumping ahead in the timeline, but that's okay because how did you balance studying to be a dentist with being in a band? And that would have been the '90s, I would have assumed at that point.
So,
and you're working as a roadie at Sandstone. Is that all at the same time?
I mean, kind of overlap some of that, but I'll fast forward a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
From the time, I was all in music went in as a music major in college and all that, but I always loved like working with my hands, and I'd go down to dental school with my dad and not that it was in the back of my head, but I was like, I could see myself being good at that or doing that
right.
if I wanted to. And I'll skip ahead and then we can fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
But the point came when Mike and I we'd been playing since we were young. I mean, we came this close to a record deal more than once. I mean, we'd been out to California multiple times and we're recording in a famous studio, and it's like, something would fall through, and I'll have to tell you guys some of those stories. But there was a point when I was then out of undergrad, and to answer your question, I would just study, when we'd be playing almost every weekend in college, we were playing out of town. Some would play Topeka or Westport or some prom in some small town, and I would have to really be focused. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get all my studying done, so when Thursday or Friday hits, I don't have to worry.
I'm gonna go over molars from Monday till Thursday.
This was before dental school. This was
okay. Sorry about that.
Undergrad. So that was manageable. And then so there was about a 3-year period where I was not in undergrad. I hadn't gone to dental school yet, and it was like music gung ho. That's when I was working at Sandstone, right up the street, and just odd jobs, playing random gigs with whoever.
Living the rock life.
The pivotal moment came, not even pivotal. I mean, not that Mike and I got burnt out of, because there was a point where then Bill was in Outhouse.
Yeah.
And out in L.A., gotten signed. Well, actually, they came back to Kansas City, but they had gotten signed. Bill's calling me like, you need to move to L.A. because they need there's lots of drummers lots of bands that don't have drummers that are getting signed. And I don't know. Mike and I were still shopping stuff and trying to make it happen. But there came a point where I was like, how long am I going to do this? And what am I really happy doing? Am I going to be happy when I'm 35, if I'm still, and there's plenty of people that no matter what, they're happy to play in and do it. And I kind of was like, am I cut out for this? You know, like
the lifestyle,
the grind of it.
Yeah.
And, but I love music to this day. I love drums, love music and all of that. So it was a real like path in the road. And, one of my odd jobs, I was working, do you remember Spirit Fest when they used to have those down at,
good time. Right.
So I would help Matt Hartnett, who at the time worked at, Quigley Music. And we'd do the backline equipment, and they would just hire me to help out with the drums and all of that for 3 days. And one of the owners of Quigley's, Gary Butler, who plays in
Liverpool.
Yeah. So Gary Butler, he would not remember this conversation when it was so just a random conversation while we're setting up or whatever. And he's like, and he always loved the band. He was always really supportive of Perpetual Change and was telling us, you know, giving us advice or whatever. But he was like, what's the band doing and all that? And I'm like, you know, it's Mike and I are just, Mike's writing songs, we're recording them, we're trying to get deal and all that. And I said, I'm kind of thinking about maybe going to dental school. And I kind of actually hated to tell him that. I was like, and he's like, man, that's a great idea. He's like, I think that's a good idea. And like, you can still play, you can still do it all, but it's nice to have a secure job or whatever. And I was like, oh, really? You're telling me that that's okay? And it kind of gave me like the
permission, a
mental nudge of like
a mental like approval of another musician.
From, the Ringo part of Liverpool too, right?
Yeah,
so, correct.
Yeah. And you know what's kind of funny about all of it? If you saw Bohemian Rhapsody, the drummer in Queen was going to dental school when Queen.
No, okay.
Yeah, and there's one little line in there where he was going to dental school, and then towards the end of the movie, when Freddie Mercury's mad at him, says, "If it wasn't for me, you'd be a dentist and playing in pubs on the weekend or whatever." I was like, oh man, that's
hey.
Well, a little bit of trivia. My first paid gig as a photographer was Liverpool. Gary.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
oh,
Gary.
Cool. He's a great. I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah,
He's a great guy.
But that was like 2007 or something.
Yeah.
Nice.
$50.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
This interview is not going as I thought it would.
That's part of the charm
we're
of
gonna
what we do.
change it up because we've got these glasses right here.
Yes.
All right.
And
we're going to shift gears and go
what are we
into.
doing? What are we doing?
Yes.
Let's say I brought a sampling of. Let's see here. Got some Frosty root beer.
You got some Frosties. Okay, we're gonna need a bottle opener.
These are
right?
These are pretty readily available. These are not obscure. The IBC.
Yeah, sure.
And from St. Louis, the Fitz's.
The Fitz. Okay.
And so I'm kind of a root beer snob.
Okay. All right.
Connoisseur.
Hey.
And if you ever go to the soda shop on Mass Street in Lawrence, they have 80-some different root beers, most of which you probably haven't heard of.
There's a soda shop in the River Market.
Same people.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just about to ask that.
Is it still there?
Yes.
Down the river? Okay.
I was just there. I was just at the River Market, Farmers Market the other week, and it's still open.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And so everyone has its own kind of flavor. And I thought it'd be fun if we...
Let's do it.
You know.
Let's
That's
start
great.
with, there you go, Frosties is good.
And this is alcohol-free. Now I'm kidding about
There
that.
is a not your dad's root beer that is not alcohol-free.
Huh.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll start with, which one we're going to start with?
Let's see. Oh, I opened all three. I should.
That's okay.
You pick, Shannon.
Well, we'll just go from left.
All right.
Since I'm left-handed. Then.
I think Frosty. I don't know the history of Frosty, but
Frosty.
it's been around. Oh well, here it says since 1939. So.
Oh Jesus. Frosty the root beer, not the snowman.
I've got plenty of this, so if you guys like it, you can have your own
Okay.
bottle. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Do you mind holding up the bottle to this camera?
Sure.
When it's let's, there we go. Frosties. All right, it's in focus. All right, now we can, you can set it down.
STIE.
All right, gentlemen, cheers.
Hey, look at us cheering. Okay. All right.
Hope you guys like root beer.
I do. I just happened. I was
Sweet.
at.
not bad.
I was just at Downtown Days in Lee Summit. And they've got like a local root beer. I can't remember the name.
Nice.
But I bought. They give you these little plastic bottles that you can refill throughout the.
Oh, wow.
And it was really good. And I have the bottle at home, but I don't remember what it was called. But just funny that you mentioned root beer because I was just there.
Michael, this one tastes like whiskey. I wonder if I washed this glass since the last podcast. Probably not.
Okay,
No,
so
I'm kidding.
root beer has lots of sugar in it, but it is the least erosive of all soft drinks. So in
snap.
theory, it's the best for your teeth.
We would get, you're an authority on this.
Is this actual sugar or high fructose corn syrup?
Ooh, well, some of them actually have the real sugar in them, but let's see. It says naturally and artificially flavored, so I'm sure.
Sus.
But is
Man.
this? Yeah, so the Fitz's has
good.
cane sugar. In
Oh,
it.
okay,
So
well,
when we get to
that's-
that one, we'll.
Okay.
We'll save that one for last.
Hey. So let's go back a little. You were talking about playing. Let's talk about, you got Perpetual chains together. My first introduction to you guys, of course, is Pogos.
Oh yeah.
Which a lot of people can attest
Yeah.
to that as well. How did you get those gigs, and how you played there?
A lot.
A lot, yeah.
So
Yeah.
they had Battle of the Bands there when it was still an 18, when the drinking age was still 18 in Kansas. On Sunday nights, they had teen night and they would do Battle of the Bands. And we did more than one of those. We played one and like one, I mean, we'd get a lot of people. We'd promote the heck out of it. It was close to our high school, so we had kind of an advantage probably. And we would won the first one we played. I think we played a second one, and then George Watson, the guy, the owner of it, would just have us there on. I mean, in my head, it felt like we played there once a month, but it wasn't that often. But we'd get $1 a person that came through the door, and we'd pack the place. Yeah.
No,
And,
you did. You did.
It was
for
fun.
sure.
It was good times.
Is there any photos of that place? I mean, I'm assuming that building's been torn down.
It is. It's right where Shawnee Mission Hospital is, essentially. And it was a big club, like over 1,000 people fit in there. And
Then they moved it off 79th and Quivira to Trail Ridge.
Yeah. And
Whatever.
Then it was a teen club at that point after the drinking age changed. And then it became a kind of a event space.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Nice.
And
Nice.
when I was in dental school, I actually DJ'd for George Well, George ended up, he had a rental house that he rented to Mike and I over in Prairie Village. This was all like full
I think
circle.
Jim talked about how he really liked you guys. George did. I think he.
Oh yeah,
mentioned
he was.
that,
Yeah, in fact, he lent us the money to record like when we recorded a single, like literally pressed a vinyl record. He was like, I know you guys are good for it. You can just play here and pay me off, basically,
Right.
if nothing else. And you probably in high school we sold those records, and then we got it. That was when the Shooting Star guys heard it and liked it, and I guess that's a good place to kind of pick up. So when we recorded that, at the time I was taking drum lessons from Steve Thomas, who was Shooting Star's drummer, and I played him our demo just to kind of help me with drum parts or whatever. And he was like, "You guys should really record these." And Gary West, singer in Shooting Star, has a studio. I can talk to them and hook you guys up. And we paid to rent the space or whatever. And Warren Rhodes, who was the engineer there, it was funny. He was kind of, at first, it's super cool, but was like telling us what to do. But by the time we were done with the song, he was into it. He was like, "These are good songs," and like, I don't know, he really got behind it. And then he got the guy that was managing Shooting Star at the time to kind of get behind us, and then they started getting it played. It was on KY 102. They got it played on there, which was like unheard of now. It had never happened. But so that was happening.
This was circa 87?
87, yeah. And so let's see. A lot happened in a short amount of time. So at the time, it seemed like, oh gosh, 6 months seemed like forever, or whatever.
Right.
But in that short time, we had the record out. All of a sudden, we're playing a lot. Those Shooting Star guys got us the booking agent that booked some of their stuff, and they were like, "Okay, you guys just you're green. You need to play a whole lot, and then we'll like shop your stuff to try to get you a record deal." And so that summer, this is like the summer before I went to undergrad, we played all the time. And we played like Marshall, Missouri, Sedalia, like some of these places. And we'd rent one hotel room and like 9 guys would crash in there, and it was bad. But we played a lot and we got better, and learned what it was like to play to a crowd or whatever. And it was fun. It was a blast. So we finished.
And at this point, it's you, Mike Bosley, Bill Lattis, Jim Parker is in there. And then you're and Trey's in the band.
Yeah.
And then you had a different keyboardist with Keith.
Yeah, Keith Bowen. Yeah, and
he's the only different one from the lineup that plays currently.
Correct. Right. Yeah. And it's funny because we've known Matt for many, many years. He's been like associated with the band for a long time. Keith is now lives in Texas, and all the PC circle of people involved. Every Friday morning, there's a group text that usually starts from Keith. And I mean, when I say every Friday morning, it's without fail.
To this day.
To this day, there's a text. And some days it'll be, "What's up, boys?" And it's one-word responses. And then other times it'll be like throughout the entire day, depending on what's happening. If someone's getting a colonoscopy that day or something, it might be a long
Right.
list of things.
And he returned for your 30th anniversary show in 2015.
Yep.
And he was on,
And he'll probably come back for the 40th.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, he works for a long time. He worked for Tomcat Truss, which is like the trussing for lighting, for big lighting rigs for shows. And I know he was involved in designing some of the Cirque du Soleil stuff, which is pretty cool. And now he works for another like lighting truss company or whatever. Yeah, good dude. But then after everything was really going gangbusters, we thought Warren, the engineer who was really behind us, got a job offer at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, California. And we were like,
"You're in."
we were like, "We're done. He's moving away. We'll never see him again." And he was like, "I won't forget you guys,"
Yeah.
And so a few months after we started college, we were still playing all the time, but didn't know, he was recording us for free at that point. So we didn't really have that, but he got Wally Buck, who was the engineer who engineered Journey's like Journey Escape and Journey Frontiers, and had just done the Europe Final Countdown. He was the like executive producer on that. Got Wally Buck to listen to it, and he was like, "I want to fly you guys out to California and record, and you're going to be famous,
Yeah.
Like,
You're going to be famous, kid."
Yeah. And he flew in. He flew in. We won the KY 102 Day in the Park. They had a contest or whatever.
I remember that. Sure.
We opened for the Smithereens.
Okay.
That was whatever. Still 87, I guess. And Wally flew in to hear us play. And we'd played the night before in Marshall, Missouri. We drove all night not all night, a few hours. But half the guys slept out at the Smithville Lake, where I went home and slept in the good bed. But,
Right.
and then we got up the next day and played that. Wally flew in to hear us and was like, "All right, you guys are going to fly out to, next month, and we're going to record." And that was, so it's kind of like the stories you hear where they put a contract in front of you or make you sign something that's, so once we got out there, we recorded 3 songs, and day 3 that we're there, and this is like that Fantasy Studios. It's a famous studio that tons of hit records were there. A lot of the San Francisco bands had recorded there. So it was like world class. And so they had this big, thick contract, and they're like, "Okay, we need you to sign this now." And it was like, you can have lawyers look at it, but it's all legit,
Right.
And so we did hire a lawyer while we were out there, and the guy went through it and marked up all this stuff. This is like way too high. This, you can't sign it like it is. And so it got in this whole, it was a whole mess kind of.
Right.
But we ended up signing this letter of intent. We didn't sign the contract. We finished recording that 2 weeks or however long we were there. And so they shopped this record. They got some record companies interested. They wanted to hear more stuff. So we flew out again. A few months later, recorded 3 more songs. And then I think if we would have signed the contract, we probably would have gotten a record deal. But we were like, it could have extended up to 8 years. It was just like everyone's telling us, "Don't do it. There'll be another opportunity."
Like Boston, the band Boston.
Yeah. And ironically, if you look at the history of Fantasy Studios, the guy that owned it, Saul Zantz, was the same guy that John Fogerty signed
sure.
his stuff over. And Zantz wasn't involved with us, but it was ironic that it was at the same facility where John Fogerty got signed over all his publishing to the guy that owned it. And so it was, who knows what would have happened. And looking back, Warren, the engineer, and I still love the guy. Like, we still communicate regularly, and he's down in Nashville and runs Soundstage, which is a huge, famous, like Dolly Parton recorded her last rock record there. And so, I mean, it's a famous facility.
Everybody's in Nashville nowadays.
But it was a great experience. I mean, looking back, I loved every minute of it. It didn't turn out like it could have, but we got a taste of what it was like.
And this is just like right out of high school?
Right out of high school.
Ain't that crazy?
And so, like, emotionally, the up and downs of all of that, it wears on you. In the meantime, we're playing every weekend and go, go, go. It was also at that point that Jim left the band, and it was, I mean, it was just, we were young kids and like.
Right. Is that when John Michaels came in?
It was a little after that, actually, with John. Yeah, after everything kind of blew up with that. Bill left the band at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, John came in after Bill had gone.
Then there was a point where there wasn't really a band. It was just Mike and I kind of doing stuff. And then, let's see, then was the John Michaels era. After that, we got John.
We've heard about that.
We talked to him about that.
Yeah, I listened to that, you guys.
Felons.
I need to make some corrections on what he said. It's funny. I texted him or talked to him, and I was like, I don't think I said that about Michael McDonald. When he was like, hey, you guys want to play with me? And John's like, I said, no. Oh, we don't know that song or whatever. I was like, did I really say? I don't think I said that. Like, oh, you said that. So it was great. Yeah, with John, we shot a music video with John, and we were back to like.
You have it on VHS still. I
do. Yeah. Have you guys seen it? I need to dump that and get it on YouTube or whatever. We all have mullets, and it was a deep. Craig Paddock, if you know Craig, he's the one that shot the video, and it was cool. It was fun. But let's see, we did that video, and then we shopped the stuff with John. Went out to California at least once with him. And it's kind of cool when we go out there. It was almost a novelty that we were from Kansas, that the record companies would almost listen to you because they're like, oh, we drove all the way from Kansas. Okay. And so that was fun with John.
Nice.
We gigged a lot with that. And then, gosh, I should have made the timeline. What happened after that?
It's all right. While you're thinking, finish that off and let's do IBC. Root beer. Let's try this next one.
So the John Michaels era was like what, 91 to 90?
Maybe 94 or 5, probably. Yeah.
While we're drinking this here, give us another dental fact.
And hold up this is IBC root beer. Okay.
All right. Oh, man.
Another dental fact for us here.
Okay.
This one is less good for your teeth.
Have you guys heard the term only floss the teeth you want to keep?
Oh.
That's a good one. Flossing is definitely important.
Hey, it is.
I happen to floss today, as a matter of fact.
Me too.
Maybe it was subconscious. I don't know. Well, okay, so 91 to 94 with John.
Yep.
And then I'm assuming that Michael Hennig followed right after John.
This is a long history now that I'm actually talking about it. And then I started dental school, and Mike Hennig was playing with Mike Bosley in a band called the Congo Honkies.
Okay,
remember that? Right. With Trey too.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
They played. And Rod Lincoln, who was Shooting Stars drummer at the time, it was kind of a side thing that they played every Wednesday night at what's the name of that place? It was on Warnell Road. It was Center Stage at one point, but I think it was called something else. Kamikaze Coast or something. I don't know. It was a live music venue. They'd play every Wednesday night. And that was before, And then anyway, at some point, then Mike joined so it was Mike, we were 3-piece. Mike Bosley, Mike Hennig, and Mike Hennig from
he's
Platinum Rock Legends.
PRL.
And Mike is the coolest guy. Mike and I lived in the George Watson rental house, and at that time Mike Hennig didn't really have a place to live, and he crashed on the floor for maybe a year. I don't know, a long time. And but he was like a mouse. You wouldn't know he was there. Like he had his own little space, and he would like roll out his sleeping bag or whatever, and like wake up the next day, and it was like he wasn't there. You know, it was like he was a very neat individual. And I have some funny one-line quotes from him, but I don't know.
Hey, it's whatever you feel
Yeah.
comfortable.
No, I mean,
You could set you know profanity's okay,
No,
but if
it's
you're
not.
not,
I mean,
if you're not comfortable
it's not
saying
even
it-
that. But
Right.
I mean, the one thing that Mike Bosley and I remember quoting, it was after a gig, late night. We're at the Perkins, and we're eating like breakfast at like 5 a.m. or whatever it is, and Mike's very kind of quiet and soft spoken, and the lady brings his plate and sits it down, and he looks at it and says, "Can I have one without the hair on it?" And there was like this long hair on it. But he was very polite about it, and was didn't get excited. It was pretty funny, but I don't know. He had to be there to see the.
He's
facial
got the
the deadpan. He's got a deadpan.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's got the best wig in the business right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I think it's a wig, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah,
he doesn't
yeah.
really actually doesn't wear the wig so much these days. He just has a kind of like not that cap.
okay.
My
You
Zildjian hat I always
I
wear.
think so.
Yeah.
Where it's a cap that's a different, like more like a military cap
Yeah.
type deal.
Yeah, he's a great guitar player. Really, really.
Yeah, yeah, and versatile, especially being platinum rock legend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how long? Nobody seems to really remember the timelines of who was in the band when and stuff. It's like
I need to draw this out because I could put it all together. So let's see. That would have been 95 to 99, I'm going to say. Yeah. Because then Mike and I both got married the same year. We moved out of the house. And
You and Boz have always been like this.
yeah. I mean, we
You
were
know?
roommates in college. We
Yeah.
went to band camp together at
There you
KU.
go. Mhm. I did not get kicked out of that one. By the way.
Okay. And yeah, so and Mike and I have played so many countless even one-off gig kind of things. In middle school we were the rhythm section for like this touring contemporary Christian kind of I don't know if you call it gospel, but kind of a group thing all up the East Coast in Canada, and that was a fun I mean that was like a good experience.
Yeah. Okay.
What it was like to get out and tour the U.S., I guess. But anyway, we've played a lot of gigs.
And still doing it.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
But so I seem to I feel like there was a extended hiatus before you had your like official reunion.
Yeah.
Like the first time the first time I saw you was 06 or 07.
Yeah. And that's right when just getting back to 07 was when we just kind of got back together. And
so-
it was Jim that was the whole catalyst for the whole thing.
So basically, like from '99 after Michael left, Hennig, is that when you folded it up, or
yeah.
more or less?
I think he moved back to St. Louis at that point. Mike and I got married. We kind of stopped playing. I had graduated dental school, so I was kind of starting that. Let's see. Mike moved to Weston. I mean, he kind of disappeared for a while, like after he got married, and that's when. Let's see. Oh, then I played in Lie Awake. If you know that band from. They're from Omaha, and I guess half from Omaha, half from Lincoln. They were kind of a Perpetual Change-ish band from that area, and their drummer moved away, and I kind of knew them, and they contacted me like, "Hey, you want to audition?" And I knew most of the stuff, and they're like, "We play 1 week in a month, either in Omaha, Lincoln, or Kansas City." And at that point, they would play like the Hurricane and pack the place, and they had a good following. And so I played with them for several years. And I'd drive up there, 1 weekend, and they had a really good following up in Omaha, and so that was a blast. And then
Lie Awake,
Lie Awake, yeah,
and it sounds like it was a cover band.
cover band.
yeah.
They had some originals that were good, but same kind of, very similar to PC, kind
Right.
of where we'd play and that kind of thing. And then I hadn't played. Then they kind of split up and. Wasn't really playing with anybody, and then Trey called me out of the blue.
Yes.
You heard this story?
Yes, Trey told me this story. I was about to bring it up.
Trey called me and like, "Hey, I'm playing with Drew Six. He's playing bass. Can you play a gig this weekend?" This is like literally on a Wednesday, and I was like, what? I need to practice. There's no way. And I'm like,
How long since you actually played a gig? I mean,
couple years probably. I mean, I was still playing my drums at home, but it was like, yeah, I hadn't gigged for a while. It felt like it had been forever. And they're playing down at O'Dowd's on the plaza. And he sent me the set list. So I was like, I know most of that. I mean, I showed up, no rehearsal or anything. And that was the first time I'd met Drew and played the gig. It was fun. It was he was entertaining, fun guys to play with.
Right.
And so it was fun, one-off gig. And then at the end of the night, Drew's like, hey, man, can you play next weekend? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then
Trey mentioned the part where like he did the one-handed push-up in front, and you're like, there's a that kind of threw you off.
I'm not knowing Drew at the time. I was like, what is going on? And he's a great entertainer. I mean, he was like, people were eating it up too. I mean, he's literally on the ground playing the harmonica, doing these one-handed push-ups and, like really getting the crowd into it. But I'm watching this from behind, just literally cracking up, watching it all happen. And but then Drew was like, hey, will you be my drummer? And I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll do it until you find someone or what, 'cause I was, fear of commitment and was busy, I had small kids and everything at that point. And anyway, I did that for 2 years or maybe more. Recorded a song or two with him, and he made a video back then. And that was probably before your time, Brian, I guess.
Yeah, that. I really didn't start meeting anybody until the first time I saw the Zeros was November of 2005, and then I think you guys played something 2006, September of 2006
with PC or.
PC, yeah.
It would have been 2007 when we first, because we got back for our high school reunion. Is when we.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was there for that.
That was when Jim was like, we got to get we should play we should play one set. And we're like, if we're going to play a set, we might as well just or it was a couple songs. We should play a couple songs. Like if we're going to do a couple songs, let's just play. Yeah. I'll play the whole night.
Was that at the Well? Where was it?
No, it was a building they rented out. I was there.
Okay.
So that was
September 28th, 2007.
That was
Craig Paddock's.
It was the warm up for Craig Paddock's. The timing of it worked out to where we knew we were going to do our high school reunion, and then I think Paddock contacted us and was like, "Hey, do you want to do a gig?" And maybe he knew we were doing it or whatever, and so that was our very first back together. And at that particular gig, I'm notorious for bad things happening to me at gigs. I was standing up on my drum throne, like adjusting one of the lights, like up above. This is like when we're setting up, and the throne breaks, like the leg breaks and dumps me, like not just off the thing, but down off the side of the stage. It was like another time in Marshall, Missouri, when we were playing there, the lighting truss literally fell and cracked me in the back of the head, knocked me out.
I remember a Berksider gig where you fell and cut your thumb.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I don't think I'm that clumsy, but it's just like I'm a magnet or something. So I've had some. Yeah, I still have the scar on my thumb, and
that was the day like you were setting up and something happened and like. You hit it was because they had that metal sheeting on the walls or something, and you just kind of
boom. It took the end of my finger off basically, and I played that and I taped it all up and played, and it was fine. But, I have to look out. So I'm kind of bad luck in that regard. And this is podcast number 13. So
my God.
What does that say?
Oh no. There you go. That's our drummer. By the way.
All right.
You need to finish that. The IBC was a little tart compared to the Frosty.
Yeah, I think Frosty's my favorite so far.
Right. There you go.
The IBC had more of a conventional root beer that you would,
Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do this. What this is? Fritz's?
From St. Louis.
All right.
And I don't want to bias you, but it's kind of my go-to because it's readily available.
Is that the same as or is that a Fitz? Isn't there like a burger joint?
It's different than the burger joint.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is Fitz's. That's Fritz's.
Okay.
You know,
That's
okay,
right.
there you go. I think I said
But it
Fritz's.
looks like the same logo.
Okay.
Do you have another dental thing for
gosh.
us? One more here.
Let's see.
Anything? Any tips? Anything?
Let's see. Lots of people grind their teeth. So I see a lot of people that, kind of wearing their teeth out a lot of at night, usually when you do it. So if you're doing that,
Wear an oral
wear
appliance.
some kind of guard so you're not wearing things out.
Okay, there you go. We'll accept that.
All right.
I think we're officially by American Dental Association. We're
Well, I
know where
texted
it's
Mike, as a matter of fact, on my way here to, for some stories. And the first one was getting knocked out by a lighting trust in Marshall, Missouri.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Having a dream about
I
7-Eleven.
thought I was at 7-Eleven when I woke up.
oh my God!
So random.
Where's the Slurpee machine?
Oh, yeah. It was yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you've already talked about the recording studio, Fantasy Studios. And, yes, Shooting Star playing a role. And then he sent some photos of when you guys were kids from the 80s.
He did his homework.
Yeah, he's...
Oh, yeah. That was at
Let's see that.
at
Look at you
KU
guys.
band camp
Wow.
in the 8th or 9th grade, where I put my fist through a glass window.
Oh my
And I
God!
still
See,
have
you
the
know
scar
what?
on
You,
it.
this is an issue for
Yeah.
you, isn't it? I'm like, whoa.
And they should have like sutured it up, but they just did like a Band-Aid, over, like one of those butterfly Band-Aids. Mm-hmm. And they said, don't do anything, protect it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, band cap at KU circa 1985,
Yeah.
and then apparently something. There's a Perpetual change, actual pressed vinyl press of Just a Heartbeat Away
Yeah.
in Your Eyes, 1987 Kansas on eBay for $42.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Evidently, right now it's for.
yeah, there's been one of our records on
Oh,
eBay for
shit.
years at this point. And there's a
Well-
cassette on there. There's a demo cassette that we had shopped to the record labels that someone had posted on there.
Interesting.
And what there's a couple more stories here. Ask him about playing with the outfield.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'll tell a fantasy story that I this is a big part of it I left out, that Ross Valerie from Journey
Oh, sure. Yeah.
played bass, and I have some pictures of that are kind of fun. Played on one of our songs, and so Wally, the engineer, that he was tight with all the Journey guys, and I think part of it too was like, I'll get Ross Valerie to come in and play, and he came in, it was the coolest guy ever, and sat and played fretless bass on our In Your Eyes song, and
Not the Peter Gabriel.
not the Peter Gabriel, different, but which is still a great. It's
Oh, yeah.
like the PC In Your Eyes is a really good song if you ever get to hear it. But so yeah, Ross hung out with us for a day and
he
bass.
played bass.
Yeah,
He was
played
the
bass.
original bass player then.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, and then rejoined. I mean, he's been in and out of Journey
Yeah.
for the years. At the time he was there, he was not in Journey actually.
Right, because that was when Randy Jackson
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
And so the outfield we played. This was in the John Michaels era. We played a thing for KXXR radio station. We did a couple of those where they I think they call them star parties or something, and they would have these. Let's see, we did one with Corey Hart and outfield. I can't remember if that was the same one. And Firehouse, believe it or not. Remember them?
Whoa.
That's-
Yeah, sure.
but these were two different. I'm describing two different nights.
That's
But
okay.
the one
Still
with the
pretty good.
outfield, they just did an acoustic. It was the Tune Main guys. They played bass and played guitar, kind of acoustic, and they sound checked. And during their sound check, they asked me. They said, "Hey, would you mind playing some percussion or tambourine with us just to keep time?" And I was like, "I know every one of your songs." And I do. And I was like, "Yes, I will." And I stood up. I felt like I was in the band. I stood up there behind him. I was basically playing the tambourine, smiling.
Nice.
And at one point, one of the guys dropped his guitar pick and looked at me, and I picked it up and handed it back to him. And so that was fun. That was a fun, memorable night. I have like one picture from a distance of me up there, so I can say I really did it. But
and this is the 90s then.
Yeah, 90s. And both of those guys have passed away. I don't know if you've kept track of them.
No.
The guitar player, they were a 2-member band that did, had some hired guns with them, I think.
Yeah.
But they had some great songs.
I saw them at the Beaumont Club one time.
Oh, yeah?
In the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, something like that.
All right. So, gentlemen, we're about an hour in. This may be another 2-parter. So we'll take a break. I do need to change out batteries on this. So
I just did. But we can do it again.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. We'll take a break.
Right, we'll be right back. And we're recording on audio and video, so we are back.
We're back.
We're resuming.
Okay.
There was one more that Michael Bosley had to say.
Uh-oh, here you go.
Hey,
Your bro.
I can't really hear myself.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Okay. I might have knocked. Go ahead and talk.
Check, check.
There you
Okay.
go.
1, 2,
There you
1,
go.
2.
I think I might have hit volume on accident. So
All right.
sorry. How about me? Am I
You
good?
sound good. Why don't you give us some applause and do another intro here?
And we're back for part 2 of Kansas City Nights with Andrew Moore.
There you go. There you go. And so you've got another story for us, right?
Well, another. It is another question. He sent some photos of you guys in the studio recording, I think on his album, playing a triangle. Obviously,
Yep.
you totally killed it on triangle.
Rocking the triangle.
The Take My Leash story.
Okay, yeah, I can tell you that story. It's PG-13. So,
all right.
out in San Francisco, when we were out there the first time recording at Fantasy, there's another famous studio, The Plant, out there in Sausalito, where Fleetwood Mac recorded, and who else? Lots of people.
It's crazy to think that San Francisco was such a hotbed for music, because when we interviewed Skip Godley, and Skip, don't you?
Sure.
We interviewed him, and he spent a good amount of the he was in San Francisco when you guys were recording.
Yeah.
He was there in that era, and he was at Tower Records and told us all stories. But yeah, just funny how I never think of San Francisco as being a spot, but this listening to you guys, it's like, oh wow,
Big recording spot.
Yeah. And if Skip and I have played some gigs together, and that was all we talked about was San Francisco.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's see. It was Halloween. I guess it would have, what year? 87, 88, whenever we were out there. 87 maybe. And the guys at Fantasy we got invited to go to the Christmas party at The Plant in Sausalito. So it's like this cool hip studio, and they just opened it up and like have their, did I say Christmas? Halloween party. Halloween party. Okay. Had this Halloween party, and it was the first time in my life, I think for all of us, all these boys from Kansas had seen a, when you see, have you ever seen when they like paint somebody with body paint and they have no clothes on? This girl painted like a tiger who had a leash around her neck and came up to us and was, take my leash, take my leash. And we're like, what is this?
Yeah.
You're not wearing any clothes. So that was exciting.
Did you take the leash?
We were too scared to take the leash.
Okay. That's all right. No worries.
Each of you is waiting for the other to do something.
We were looking around like, is this really happening? But, yeah. So that was that story. That was pretty fun. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
Oh no! Then he kind of segues into Big Slick.
Okay.
Yeah, because you mentioned that.
There's lots of good Big Slick
yes,
stories over the years.
Well, let's just set the stage. Big Slick is a huge charity event held the first weekend of every June as a fundraiser for Children's Mercy Hospital. And it's put together by some actual famous Hollywood celebrities who are all from the Kansas City area. Paul Rudd, Jason Sudeikis, David Koechner, and what's the name of the guy from Modern Family?
Eric Stonestreet.
Eric Stonestreet, and who's the fifth one?
Rob Riggle. Do you say Rob Riggle?
Ron Riggle. Okay.
Yeah.
And they do that, and it's a hugely successful event. I remember I was shooting the event towards its beginning. This must have been like 2011 when it was still at the Voodoo Lounge.
Yeah.
And that's where it was at. And then it grew into the Midland Theater subsequently. got bigger and bigger, and it eventually got so big that the likes of me couldn't get in there as a photographer for Inc. magazine, because they got the publicists, they want more control over photos of their clientele. Yeah. So it got really, really strict, and then it eventually ends up at T-Mobile Center, formerly Sprint Center, and Perpetual Change is the house band, and it has been the house band since about 9 years.
Yeah.
9 or 10 years.
I think that was our 10th when they said, and there were 2 COVID years in there that didn't count, but we kind of did some stuff for that even, like they did kind of an online auction kind of thing. But yeah, so it's a blast every year. The early days at the Midland were lots of fun because it was a little more
intimate.
Yeah, and not that it's even rehearsed now, but it was definitely seat of the pants when they would show up. What are we going to do, kind of thing, and we didn't know what we were going to do, and we would learn a few songs that we knew. We kind of had our regular set that we'd play, kind of as an opener, but then during the thing they would sing a couple songs, and it was a little more chaotic, but fun too.
Yeah, and you're just backing up whatever talent was going to sit in with you guys.
Yeah. And then probably our favorite part to this day still is at the very end when it's over and a bunch of the celebrities want to sing whatever song we're playing, My Sharona or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Fight for Your Right to Party. And
sure. Was that this year's song?
Yeah, we talked Kelsey into actually singing it with us. So
ain't that something right there?
It was cool.
Nice.
We manifested that. We were like, okay, he's going to be there. We've got to learn this song. We've never really played it, and so we're like, let's learn it. And then I thought we'll just play it, and maybe he'll join in with us. But as the show was going on, I was standing back, kind of behind. The thing's long. It's like 4 hours long, so there's people kind of coming on and off the stage, and I was standing back there, and he was walking right by me, and I was like, hey, Travis, we're playing Fight for Your Right to Party. You got to sing it with us. And he said, oh, I'll leave that up to you guys or something like that. I'll leave the singing to you guys. Well, then later, about 5 minutes later, Jim cornered him and told him the same thing. Like, we've learned it. And then I think Mike talked to him and said, I've got the lyrics written out up there. So he did end up,
And they're all on a first name basis with Travis Kelsey.
And he's like, who are these guys?
Hey, Travis.
Yeah, he's probably like
team man.
I think he knows John Michaels. That probably would have got it. If he was there, he would have got you.
Okay.
Yeah. John can talk anyone into anything, I think.
Yeah.
But that was fun. Yeah, that was kind of a highlight this year.
Yeah,
and
nice.
It keeps getting like you were saying, it keeps getting bigger, and they raise more money.
Yeah.
It's a great cause. And I mean, I think just nationally, I think it's getting recognized for what they're doing.
Sure. It's great they've kept you guys as the house band.
Yeah, I mean, it's for a long, like the first time we did it, we thought it was a one-off, and we were kind of like, I hope we come back next year. And the guy that was still to this day is kind of the stage manager, I guess you'd say, or the producer of it, I guess. It's like, oh, you guys you're coming back next year. And so every year it's a little, and some years we do more, some we do less. It just kind of depends on who's there. And
I'm going to name drop some names of celebs that have sat in with you guys through the years.
Let's see. Like kind of early on, Angela Kinsey from The Office used to always want to play the tambourine with us.
I remember that.
A couple times, more than once, Eric Stonestreet will play the drums. He'll sit in and play, and he's a decent drummer too. He's good. And let's see, a lot of them are just grabbing the mic. What's his name from Dawson's Creek?
Vanderbeek?
Yeah, he'll do it. Gosh, there's a bunch I'm forgetting.
Jim told us about Alex Lifeson.
Yeah, okay, so that was if I could name the top ever, what can I say? The most exciting musical moment in my whole music career.
Rush brought you guys together.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big old Rush fan, and so is Mike and Bill. Jim's probably the least Rush fan, but we're all big Rush fans. And Paul Rudd is friends with the guys in Rush, and kind of one of the earlier big slicks at the Midland. Paul was like, "Oh yeah, I tried to get Geddy and Alex to come, and maybe next year." So he was kind of teasing us, like, "Oh," and we're like, "Oh no, not you."
And you guys know Paul Rudd enough to kind of have that banter.
Yeah,
First name basis with
he
Paul.
Sat
right?
in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bill probably knows him the best, but yeah, he'll sit in, like the earlier days, there was more kind of standing around and downtime and stuff. But then we heard rumor that, the first one they had at the T-Mobile, they're like, oh, Alex Lifeson might be coming. And then we heard Alex Lifeson is coming. And then it was like, does he want to play a song with the, God. And they were like, we don't know if he wants to, but we'll keep you posted. Mm-hmm. And then we were just excited he was going to be there. Like, man, just to meet him would be super cool. And then it came down to, Alex Lifeson says he'll play some songs with you guys, but no rush. We were all like, what Rush songs can we do? But he was like, no rush. I'll play anything but Rush.
Right.
And
I can understand that. And
so they did a kind of a karaoke version of Don't Stop Believin' at one point so he had to learn the guitar solo for it. And Jim and Bill are like teaching Alex Lifeson the guitar solo to Don't Stop.
No way.
And the fact that he would even do it, like be like not above me to play some other band song.
Sure.
He was like and he kept wanting to run it over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And we did Hey Jude.
Fight for Your Right to Party.
We didn't do Fight for Your Right to Party. So we did one more with him. But the best part of the whole thing probably was during the day when we were sound checking with him, we just did this blues jam, and it was just this, 6/8 slow, and Bill and Alex are trading licks back and forth, and I look over and see Alex Lifeson kind of smiling at me, and I'm like, oh, man, I cannot believe this is happening. Don't drop your drumsticks.
Don't get hurt either.
And I did have this thought. I was like, he's, played with arguably the best drummer in the world. Many people think the best drummer in the world. Like, there's nothing I'm going to play that's going to impress him. So just hold it down.
Happy. He was happy.
And there's a little video clip of that someone got of us rehearsing with him.
Nice.
But, so he was cool. Another cool thing that happened is they had he didn't bring any of his own gear. They had 3 Les Pauls that they had gotten from a backline company. And he was backstage kind of playing them all, going back and forth. And we're just watching him like, which one's he going to pick? And he's going back. And then Bill says, hey, if you want to try my Les Paul, you can play mine if you want. And he's like, oh, no, I don't want to play your guitar. That's all right. And Bill's like, no, you can play it, seriously. So he's like, well, let me try it. Because I'm like, oh, I really like this one. You sure you don't care if I play? So he played Bill's Les Paul the whole night. And I think that guitar is worth a little more now.
Right. Sure.
So that was fun.
Sheryl Crow, I think
Sheryl
you guys backed up Sheryl Crow. We didn't back her up. There's some guys in town, Logan Mize, who's a country artist from Wichita area. His band actually kind of backed her up, and I think she knew a couple of the guys, and so they're super cool, and they were there again this year, and did a great job. She's super cool though.
And isn't she originally from Missouri, somewhere?
Yeah.
In Missouri?
What town is it? Kind of a smaller town. It escapes me.
Moberly? No, wait a minute.
You just
that might be
just throwing out something there. I don't know. All right, we're done with the root beer, right, guys? So I'm gonna switch to the other root beer.
What other good
Kennett, Missouri?
Oh, that's not. I would have missed that on a multiple choice.
Any favorite memory from Big Slick outside of playing with anybody, or
we did
a person that you met that wasn't a musician that you were just starstruck by?
I always like to talk to Richard Christie, the guy I told you about, who's a drummer,
right?
Great drummer, but it's on the Howard Stern show. He's kind of one of the sidekicks. He's always fun to talk to. Eric Stonestreet, talking drums with him. I didn't see him this last time. I didn't really get to talk to him, but let's see. I'll tell you one that's kind of random. Smigel, Robert Smigel. If you don't know that name, he was a writer for Saturday Night Live, and he did some of I think he was in the cast of Saturday Night Live, but he did the Triumph the Insult Dog. Do you remember that? So he's the guy behind the dog. And one year at the Midland, he did this whole bit with Triumph that was hilarious, where he's kind of roasting the hosts. And like right before he was up, he like came over. I mean, this is while the show's going on. He came over to me. He's like, "Hey, can you hit some rim shots? Do a rim shot every time. If I turn and look at you, do a rim shot.
Yeah.
So, Triumph's up there. I'm watching him, and he looks at me,
Right.
and he does it again. And so when he came back and he was done with his bit, he came back. And this is like literally the crowd's out here. This is all while this is going on. And I was like, hey, man, can we get a picture of Triumph behind the drums or whatever? So he's like, oh, yeah. So he's like crawling down behind my drums with Triumph up behind there.
Cigar.
So I've got a picture of that. So that was probably 6 or 8 years ago. And then he hasn't been back until this year. And then so I saw him and I was reminding him about that. But interestingly, his dad is he's passed away several years ago, but his dad was a famous dentist in New York who invented some techniques and is considered like the godfather of aesthetic dentistry. And Erwin Smigel is his name. But I heard him lecture many years ago, like when I was probably 2 years out of dental school. So I was like, hey, I saw your dad lecture. And at the time that I met him originally, I didn't know that they were connected, but I had found that out. And then he was like, oh, man,
I bet that
tell me, where was that? Tell me about it. And he was like excited about it. But it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
real cool. Real cool. Going back to Steve Christie? Richard Christie.
Richard Christie, yeah.
Richard Christie, which will tie into your podcast here that you have, Casey Drummers and Beyond. You talked about Kent Burnham.
Yeah.
You connected over Kent Burnham from Banshee.
I think you were out of the room when we were talking about this. But so Kent Burnham, who's, Kansas City drummer. So this guy, Richard Christie, who's... he's a couple years younger than I am, and he was in some like really heavy metal bands that have recorded and all this. But we were talking drums and stuff, and I was telling about my podcast, and then I said, he asked if he knew Kent Burnham, and he like flipped out that, oh, you did one with Kent. He's like, when I was in high school, I was a huge Banshee fan, and I wore a Banshee shirt in the in my senior photo, and went on and on and on. And I texted Kent I was like, hey, I met this guy. He thinks you're the god, and so it was pretty cool. But yeah, that was fun to tell him about that.
Yeah, it's quite a person to connect over there. So and now you have your podcast where tell us about Casey Drummers and Beyond.
So I don't know how many years ago now. It's turning out that I'm doing one about every quarter. I'm putting one out. Maybe. It was going to be every other week or something, or every once a month.
Oh,
but you know how that goes.
We've been there too.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm still. It's like the turtle in the race. I'm eventually going to get. There's probably 50 people that I want to talk to, maybe more.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. It's been at least 2 or 3 years since you launched yours.
Yeah.
And and I've listened to the interview with Sean, Kent Burnham, Kent's, Go-Go's. And I can't remember who else I've listened to, but that's, that was, in a way, it's kind of, I don't know if it was necessarily an inspiration. You came at it separately, but I immediately thought of you when Shannon pitched the idea to me, like, hey, let's do a podcast, man. And I'm like, yeah, I've been wanting to do something like that for years. So
I'm glad you guys are doing it. Yeah. And I'll tell you, my inspiration was, when Jerry Baton passed away, I was like, man, I would love to. And he was one of my friends that I've known forever, not someone I talk to every week or whatever, but long history. And, many great memories with Jerry. Yeah. And I was like, man, I would love to have sat down and we could have had so much fun just talking shop for 2 hours or however.
Right. Yeah.
And then, so after he passed away, I made a list and it didn't take long. I made this long list. I was like, man, I've got plenty of people that I at least have some connection to that I could interview. And everyone I've talked to is like, oh, you should, they give me another name or two that I don't even know.
Right.
And like, oh, you should talk to this person. Mm-hmm. And within the time that I made that list, so Terry that we both know, he passed away. Yeah. And this other guy, Scooter Powell, who was older than me, who back in the early days of when we were just kind of getting started, was always super nice to me. He was playing with Van from Shooting Star at the time. And I was like, oh, I'd like to track down Scooter and interview him. And he passed away. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I never got it off the ground. I was like, okay, I need to start doing this before someone else goes by the way. I mean, that sounds bad, but
no,
you know what I mean?
It makes perfect sense.
And the first one I did, I was like, I hate the way I sound. I need to edit all the ums out of it. I thought about scrapping it, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out there, whatever.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And now I don't really care. I'm just like,
we're the same way.
That's exactly how we started almost. I mean, that's why this sort of evolved to what it is, because that's like, okay, we've got different. I'm hardly cutting to any extra scenes anyway, but just to have it all like recorded and not have to edit as minimal edit as possible
Right.
is just the ideal, you know. And so
Go-Go kind of. I don't even say I pitched the idea to him, but at that Bonzo Bash that we played together, that first one, we were sitting in the green room. I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. What do you think?" He's like, "You need to do it, man. You need to do it." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it."
We interviewed him backstage at Purple Jam just for a couple
he was
minutes.
one of teasing a potential interview, actual session with him at some point down the road.
He'd be great.
Point. Your interview with him was great too. I mean,
thanks.
Just the way you're a great interviewer, and drummers like to talk about themselves way too much. If you ask me,
Nobody,
these people.
nobody has shot me down yet. Nobody said, and like Go-Go and some of those, I was like, man, they've got busy schedule. I was like, we can do it Zoom, or you can come to my place or whatever. And he's like, I'll come to your place. Oh, good. It's more fun when you can do it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I think eventually I wouldn't mind getting like Michael Hennig, on. He has a Kansas City connection, you know, and
he can sleep on my floor if you get him.
I'll tell him that.
Or actually a bed. I have a spare bedroom.
I'll tell him that. But we're eventually, if we want to start talking to people, because there's people that I know in St. Louis, not just Michael Hennig, but Jamie Bumgardner and just some other people that Eric Johnson. I don't know if you ever crossed paths with Eric Johnson of Shooting Star. It just seems like the most economical way to get them on will be via Zoom in some fashion. So
you could do an on-site while they're before their sound check.
We've done. Well, that's kind of what the whole interviewing stuff at Knuckleheads grew out of. Was like, because he wanted to have something like this set up. I wanted it too, right? But then I just realized that it's just going to be too crazy backstage to make that work. So it was like, here's what we're going to do. He put this in his pocket, the little pouch, and then he just walked up and just like handed the mic. And
great.
And that was like, that's it. That's how we can do this,
There you go. With the interviewing platinum rock legends before their show, I'm afraid Will Lackey will come out dressed as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, what's that?
Get him to be
Poking
serious
me.
for a second.
Jesus.
The first time that Mike, when they played in Kansas City, I think I saw him the first time they played here, but his verbal description of what the band was, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's like the boy band stuff. And I was like, I've got to see this. What's this all about?
Yeah. Now, does everybody, have you done any over Zoom, or has everybody came out?
So far, it's all been.
Okay. And I think I picked up you take everybody out to dinner beforehand or something, don't you? I mean, we're lacking.
Not all, but a lot of them. It's been like someone like Kent that I knew but didn't really. We don't know. Before then we didn't know each, and actually we've kept in touch and talked fairly regularly.
Great.
But just to get to know him, it was like, okay, tell me. So I have some ammunition to ask him questions.
Yeah.
And. But that's kind of been the routine. Like, let's meet for dinner, talk for an hour, and then go record something. So,
okay, yeah. So that's for a person you maybe not know as well. So you kind of break the ice and then go do the interview and stuff.
Like Sean Pors. I mean, we could talk. I mean, that was maybe the longest one I did.
Yeah,
we could go forever.
Yeah,
and
Yeah, good story. So you get good stories out of everybody. That's for sure. Hey, no. And this is a cross collab podcast.
There you go.
All right, I like it.
Here,
KC Drummers and Beyond.
KC Drummers and Beyond, right? When are you going to get Clarence McWilliams on the KC Drummers? Clarence McDrummer.
I'll put him on the list.
Yeah, put him on.
Brian
the
Rice
list.
counts as a drummer now.
Oh, hey, there you go. Right. Right. And they play. Do you have you guys play?
Actually, it's literally like when we're all done, I'm like, hey, just play for like 30 seconds. I'm going to record it. And I put it in just as a little
intro.
Bumper. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like that little stock music I have at the beginning of our stuff.
Right.
It's like basically in that part of the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's fun watching them. And
yeah. Yeah, nice. So then, getting back to Perpetual Change, you guys got some shows.
Yeah, well, and over the years, I mean, I think at this point, you guys play fewer and fewer shows. I remember way back at the peak of it, you were just playing. It was almost like 2 or 3 or 4 times a month.
Yeah.
And then it just slowed. I think COVID maybe played part of it.
Yeah.
And, how many is that? Was it just sort of something that happened, or was it a conscious decision? Or
I mean, probably more of as far as playing clubs till 1 a.m. I mean, the old days of the Brookside playing till 2 a.m. I mean, it's a blast, but it was like the older we get. I mean, the difference between being 40 and being 50 too is like a difference there,
right,
or 30 or what, So staying out that late, those were some long nights. But yeah, I think we were all kind of, let's do less. And there's not as many places to play either, as far as like the clubs, but we stopped doing as many of those and kind of like, okay, let's play the Plaza Art Fairs and the
I like
thing.
that. Right.
And
seeing you guys
I think
here.
ideal for me, like once a month is about perfect. I mean, we're not really doing that right now, but
Bill, your guitar player, he joined the Elders.
yeah.
So when
They've been playing a lot too. Yeah.
I think they pitched it. Oh, we're just going to play a couple of shows, man. It's like, just sort of a special like in memoriam for Steve, because they lost their guitar player, Steve Phillips, who passed away. And so they got him to fill in. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're going to Ireland in October.
Yeah. Yeah. they're playing a lot.
Yeah. So yeah.
You'll have to get Bill on here. He's got some good stories of touring with Kiss and all of that.
Oh yeah, remember those days? Oh, for sure. So then you got a show coming up this Friday, right?
Yeah,
2 nights from now.
Yeah, Power and Light.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get this turned around tomorrow, so it can, or at the very latest Friday morning, to sort of to tie into. So yeah, but you want to tell us about Friday then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much other than it's always a great place to play.
Yeah,
play 9 to midnight. And gosh, we've had some great shows there. I mean, it's a fun.
It's almost a high school reunion for us.
Yeah,
when you guys play there, you get a lot of Northwest people out there. Showmanship Northwest. Mm-hmm. We'll be there.
Yes.
All right.
We'll be there.
I think it's rumored that John Roy might sit in on a couple of
songs. Roy Henderson. We've talked to him before.
Yeah.
That's part of his contract.
Yeah.
It is.
He doesn't leave the house.
as long as no other band is playing it before you guys do.
Oh, that little incident happened last month at the special 3-piece, the
show.
Disco Dick Grinders.
Yeah.
Grinders and the outdoor.
I wanted to go to that. I bet that was a blast.
It was good. It was like 1,500 people. I mean, it was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Disco Dick played an hour, the Zeros played an hour, and Dolomite played the final hour. But the thing is, Disco Dick's final song was
All Night Long. Shook Me.
Was it Shook Me All Night
Something
Long?
like that. It was one of the big.
And just remember, like, seeing John Roy's face. Just so
he was not happy.
Like because he knew, like, there's no way the Zeros are going to squeeze that song into their 1-hour set list after that.
Yeah, that's happened to us in years past, like playing those Battle of the Bands and stuff. Like some band plays, we were going to play that song,
So, and then you got another show in August. Is that right? That's the next one?
Yep. That's unless something else gets dumped in there.
Okay, hopefully.
Out at, I can never remember the name of it. Park Place.
Oh, okay.
It's like playing in someone's backyard, but it's a blast.
Is that anything planned at that one? Remember the parking lot party for coaches?
Yeah. I mean, we'd do another one of those. Those were fun.
Yes.
That one is kind of maybe our first gig.
The COVID.
After COVID, it was outside. And
it was still COVID. It was September of 2020. And
there were a ton of people there, too.
Yeah.
We were getting there to sound check, and people had already, I think no one literally had nothing to do. And there were people like putting out their chairs. And I was like, somebody needs to tell them we don't start for like 4 hours or whatever, and they were just
happy to be outside.
Getting liquored up.
Yeah. So that was, those were fun.
Of the set, my favorite song is All These Things We've Done. I love that song.
I love that song
Yes.
too. In fact,
Yes.
that was the first one that popped in my head.
Okay. All right.
That's one I remember when we learned it, and I'm pretty sure it was my idea. Not to take credit
It's
for
a great
Eric,
idea.
But, I mean, but I was like, let's learn this song, and everyone was like, okay, yeah. And then I felt like we were doing it because we liked it, and then not as one we thought would be, oh, this will be a crowd pleaser or whatever. But it's always goes over. That's a fun one to play.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Hey, I love Mr. Brightside, and you guys play Mr. Brightside too, don't you? And yeah, because I always watch you play that drum fill in the second verse. I'm fascinated. Like, what is it? What's going on?
I don't think I play it the same every time.
Well, no, you do the drum fill that I'm talking about correctly, because I watch it and then you do it, and it's at toward the end of the second verse, right before it goes into the lead up to the chorus.
I know the one.
Like it's a but
I love their drummer.
Not everybody that plays that song even remembers to do that, because but yeah, definitely. But to hear a different Killers song, that's besides that, so that's another
right.
And so
any other song that you enjoy playing out of your set?
Let's see. Surprisingly, My Sharona is
okay.
It's kind of fun.
Right.
Let's see. I mean, those stuff that comes out of left field when we'll just like literally we'll play a song that we hadn't played in 4 years or something. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
There's a Social Distortion song that I think we play only because we like it. That Bill sings, that rocks, that I love playing. What's the name of it? I can't even think of the name of it. It's great.
Yeah.
What else?
That's cool. No, that's good. That's good. What about your kit? What tell us about your kit?
My drum kit.
Yeah.
So it's a Gretsch USA custom in custom Gretsch orange lacquer.
Wait, didn't you get a brand new one that was a lot
are you
smaller?
talking about? Well, I have electronic kit now. A Roland. Have you seen that?
I think I remember you telling me about it, but I also remember you like showing like it had to have been you. You had your kit and everything was a lot, like the kick drum was a lot smaller. Is that
That's
right?
probably it. That's probably electronic. It looks like a real drum kit, but it's electronic. So that is I've used that the last couple gigs at like indoor stuff that so it's not so loud and they sound phenomenal. And it's like Matt when he's mixing, he's like,
he loves
sounds
it.
like the CD. It sounds phenomenal. Like a Power and Light, I'll use my acoustic kit. And I still love acoustic drums, but man, the electronic stuff, they sound phenomenal.
But Matt, speaking of, he's a sound guy, and I remember just asking, I just assumed that he'd be like, electric kits, screw them, they're just a hassle. He's like, I love them, man, because I could dial everything in much better than an acoustic kit. It's so much nicer to deal with that. So.
We played a private party thing down at the Irish bar right next to Power and Light.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called now. It used to be Raggle and Rose.
Yes.
We played there in December, I think, and that was one of the first times I'd used it. And the guy, it was a small stage too, so the guys didn't even, I think they were completely ampless, so it's like quiet stage, and out front it was like, Matt was like, it sounds perfect, and it wasn't that loud, people could talk over it and everything. So it's kind of a different experience playing, but if you want it to sound good in a room like that, that's a good way to do it. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'll be having my Gretsch kit with.
Always been a Gretsch guy, or is that?
No,
Okay.
I love all drums, but
Sure.
the Gretsch. That when you look at the drum companies, they all have their own kind of personality and history. I've got a lot of Ludwig snare drums that there's a lot of history with those. Like probably the most recorded snare drum, A lot of hit records used Gretsch drums on, even if someone endorsed some other brand, it's like, oh, they were really playing a Gretsch set in the studio or whatever. But I have a Yamaha set that I love that I just keep set up at home all the time, like that I've had since high school, and it's still a great sounding set. Matt always he thinks that's his favorite drum set ever or whatever, when he, just as it's easy to sound good. It sounds really good, but I like it all. But the one I play live, the acoustic set, that orange.
Well, that's great. You still have your original.
I do.
Drum set.
Yeah.
Then.
And
Good
my
deal.
wife says she wonders. I don't think she knows just how many drums I really have, but
she just never goes into that part of the house.
Yeah.
She avoids that part of the house.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, but kind of circling back real quick about dentistry. I mean, you chose to become a dentist. I mean, I guess how you've ran, it's your own practice, it's named. I mean, how I do like this, find out a little bit more outside of the music part. I mean, how I'm trying to find the right words, like how hard was it to build it up? I mean, how much it had to have just been, you had to have people coming in and, I mean, helping you. I don't know, like what the process of that.
Yeah. So I got out of school. I never thought, I figured, I'll just work for somebody or, find someone's retiring or something. I mean, that's a common way to become a dentist, I guess. So when I got out, I worked with a guy. I lived in Brookside at the time, and there was a dentist that I assisted when I was in dental school that was like walking distance from my house. And as I was getting closer to graduating, it was like, oh, I've got an extra room back there if you want to, set up shop and work a couple days. It wasn't really big enough for 2 people full time, but it was like, hey, I'm not here on Fridays if you want to. So I worked 3 days a week there, and then I worked for another dentist in Gardner. They were completely different styles. The guy in Brookside I loved, and like to this day, he's actually just getting ready to retire, but a great guy. But it wasn't like long term. It wasn't set up for 2 people basically. So I found this place out in Western Shawnee like 25 years ago, and just started from scratch. Got a strip mall, started with one chair, and kind of built it up. And while I was still working for the guy in Brookside, and I did that for about 6 years, where I was going back and forth between the 2 offices, and just kind of built it up. It's and the timing was great. Out here, there was a ton of growth and at the time, no other dentists.
Right.
And so, and now 24 years into it out here now, I'm as busy as I want to be and still going. I love it. I mean, it's like, I'm really passionate about it, like I am music. I mean, those are kind of my 2 things. Like
I've come to see you a couple of times to reset my crown that popped out. He resealed it.
Yeah. Okay, great. I remember that the last one.
It is like you're working with your hands and you're doing, you're thinking. I love that kind of, focused work, I guess.
Yeah.
And, there were 5 drummers in my dental class, which is kind of interesting too.
Okay,
so maybe the hand-eye coordination.
Right. Sure, no, exactly.
And Matt Garrison's a guitar player.
Yeah,
musician. Same thing.
Yeah,
same thing with hands.
And you do a lot of your friends and their kids as well. You're their dentist as well. So
the guy that I work for that I really liked gave me some advice, and he said, make friends of your patients, not patients of your friends. But I have a lot of my friends that are, but there's some truth to that though, as far as, I don't know.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Well, I think we might be kind of at the end. I mean, I'm scanning this thing. We covered everything just back and forth and all over the place, that's just the nature of how we do this.
Yeah.
It's just, we let it kind of go where it goes, and
we're chill. Yeah.
And we try to steer it back to certain things. And so, So again, Andrew Moore, we appreciate.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was a blast, and keep going because I love listening to them.
We will.
All right.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brian Rice.
I'm Shannon Gieber.
Kansas City Nights.
Yo.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, man.